Look at that picture of President Obama up there. Does anybody remember 8 years ago when he was running for president, how when he was running, everybody in the media was talking about we have our first serious black candidate, And then when he got elected to president 8 years ago, those same media outlets were saying we have our first mixed race president. And people started to wonder, why did he transition all of a sudden from being black to being mixed race? And there was a lot of confusion about his race early on. And so somebody asked him, at some point a reporter asked him in a room full of reporters, they said, President Obama, how do you define your race? And what he said kind of shocked the nation, because everybody, I think, expected him to say something along the lines of, oh, well, first and foremost, I'm an American, or something like that. But what he actually ended up saying was black. And they said, wait a minute, how can you consider yourself black? Why just black, right? Like your mom's from here, your dad's from here, you were born in such and such place, your name is whatever. And they were very confused by this. So, they asked him, why black? And his answer, this is what shocked the nation, he said, well, I've always been treated like a black person. Treated like a black person. So give some thought as to what you think he meant by that. Treated like a black person his whole life. And he started to cite these examples of walking down the street at night and people crossing the street to get away from him, or hearing doors lock as he walked down the street, or walking into an elevator and having ladies clutch their purses a little bit tighter. He even told a story about when he was a U.S. Senator in Illinois and he got followed for an hour in a department store. He said quite blatantly that black people in this country are not treated the same as other races. Now, this was a big deal, and the reason it was so shocking is because for many years before President Obama, we wanted to believe that race was no longer really an issue in this country, right? We wanted to say, well, we had the civil rights movement, 50 years ago. We kind of figured all that stuff out, and now it's not a problem, right? We ended slavery, we had civil rights, it's done. And here was a sitting U.S. president who said, no, it's still very much an issue, and people are treated differently according to their race. When I compare this to the Jesus example above, or all of the different random words that we talked about above that, what we start to see is that in this culture, and in a lot of cultures, we use race as a way to try to divide people up, right? We pull all these arbitrary characteristics and we divide people up so that we can treat them differently, basically, right? So we can allot them to certain places in society. Now that should sound familiar, right? Like our hierarchy that we talked about before. Once we start dividing people up, whether we use religion or skin color or language or whatever, once we start dividing people up, it becomes really easy to put them into different categories and then put those categories into different levels, right? Once they're in different levels, then we decide who gets access to what resources. Now this is a system that we've seen in society repeatedly for the past 5,000 years, and it's certainly no different today. Okay, these are systemic problems. Obviously, there are exceptions, but we see this on a systemic level. Okay, structural, right? Like structural violence. This is why race, in addition to being an excellent example of a biocultural adaptation, is also a really great example of structural violence. Let's move on now, and let me know if you have any questions.